Hi everyone, this video is basically a short video to help those people out that were having a little difficulty with answering or finding the central message to the poem that Mr. Elias assigned for his first assignment. So first of all, in order to figure out what the poem is about, you want to figure out what is the repeated noun, which would be the subject. So you want to do this step right here. That's number one, and I've just highlighted. The next thing you want to figure out, okay, well, what about the particular subject? The subject can be like an emotion, like happiness. So then you want to ask yourself, what is the speaker telling us about this subject? So you want to listen for words and phrases that describe, such as adjectives and adverbs. So in this particular section, you're going to have to make an inference or a guess. So say if the subject is happiness. So what is he telling us about happiness? Is happiness fun? Is happiness something that we have to work for? What is he actually or she is telling us about happiness? So you will find that in the descriptions of happiness and what the person thinks about happiness. So you take those pieces of textual evidence and put it together and you make an educated guess. All right, so you got to sum up that information. So you're just really making an inference there. So it's not going to be necessarily something that's not going, that piece of information is not going to be directly stated in the text. Then when you get finished, you're going to write your answer to resemble something like this, the part that I have highlighted. So it would be something like the speaker's message about happiness, and you'll put happiness like right here in this blank here, is maybe that we need to work towards happiness. And as you can see, I got a little error here. Make the corrections, make the correction here. Okay, so as you can see, in my particular sentence, I made sure I have a subject, which is my answer, which is happiness. The speaker's message is about happiness. So here I've given the subject. So when I read it back, it says the speaker's message about happiness is that we need to work towards happiness. So this part here, we need to work towards happiness, will be something that I picked up or that I put together from information in the text that helped me to come up with an inference or an educated guess. Now, let's go ahead and let's look at the poem that he asked us to figure out what the central message is. So we're going to have to first look for words or phrases that are repeated to figure out the subject. Then after that, then you got to figure out, well, what about it? And then once you give your statement, you also want to go in and say, I know this because the text says, and you want to give a direct quote right here. And then you can say, then after you give your direct quote, you want to say, this shows, you can even say, this quote shows that, and you want to explain it. Once again, when you get to this part of explaining it, explaining what you're talking about, this is your own take, your own understanding. And that is what the teacher is looking for. He's looking to see, what do you think? Keep in mind, this is not a new poem. He read this poem and discussed this poem on March the 16th, which was the Monday right before we left to go and do e-learning. So let's get into the poem now. Now, as I read the poem, you want to also read the poem, and you want to, as I'm reading, you want to go and circle these key pieces of information to help you come up with the central message. All right, so I'm going to make this a little bit bigger because it's kind of hard for me to see. And I'm going to change the font a little bit so I can read it a little bit better. So just bear with me. And I'm going to make the spacing a little bit more so I can kind of like see it better. All right, so now let's go ahead and let's get started with the poem. And I'm just going to kind of read along here. These are the same types who say the only thing to fear is fear, which of course is not true, because fear educates our care for each other. We fear a sick person might be made sicker, or that a person's life might be made even more miserable. And we do whatever we can to protect them because we fear a version of human life in which everyone lives only for themselves. I am not the least bit afraid of this kind of fear, for fear is a vital and necessary part of love. And this fear, which I love, is right now particularly justified because we have a pernicious virus that travels inside the healthy to sicken and kill the already fragile. And therefore requires that the healthy and strong deepen their moral commitments. For the benefit of the sick and weak, we must learn to do good for the good of the stranger now. We now have to live as daily evidence that we believe there is value in the lives of the cancer patient, the elderly person, the disabled one, the ones in unthinkable living conditions, crowded and at risk. The second stanza. We also must engage in large-scale social distancing. The way social distancing works requires faith. We must begin to see the negative space as clearly as the positive. To know what we don't do is also brilliant and full of love. We face such a strange task here. To come together in spirit and keep a distance in body at the same time. We can do it. I am writing this because I want the good in us to break through the layers of hateful nonsense we've been drowning in. I think we can be good, but we also must prepare for an amplification of evil. The time when the invisible becomes invisible. The time when the invisible becomes visible is at hand. All right, so this is the reading of the poem. I hope you can take the information and use it to help you with. Thank you.